Hi, I'm Alexa and this is Friendly Fields Farm. We are a nonprofit animal sanctuary in Waynesville, North Carolina, and today we're going to be talking about all things pig related. So I'm going to introduce you guys to our 5 pigs that we have at the sanctuary, and then we're going to kind of talk about some of the basics of pig care and some of the things that I've learned since we've been caring for these pigs, so that if you're interested in rescuing a potbelly pig, or you might find yourself caring for one at some point, you'll have an idea of what's involved. So we have Elliot and then Elliot's 3 sisters, Susanna, Penelope, and Pearl. And they were all rescued from a neglect situation. So they were living in feet of their own waste. They had no solid ground. Everything was mushy and just disgusting. And they had no grass, they had no space, no shelter. They didn't have appropriate food. And when we rescued them, 2 of the girls were pregnant at only 6 months old. So they had very complicated pregnancies, and only one of their piglets survived. And that piglet is our 5th pig on the sanctuary. His name is Sebastian. And unfortunately, his mom, Penelope, was not able to take care of him. She actually wouldn't even go near him. So we really didn't have much of a choice, and our vet advised us to take him inside and care for him ourselves. So that was its own whole crazy adventure. That was earlier this spring, and so now all of our pigs are doing really well here. Elliot is probably the most friendly of the original 4 pigs that we rescued. So he doesn't really mind people coming near him. He'll let me scratch him like this. The girls, Penelope, Pearl, and Susanna, are a little bit more shy still. They had a rougher time. I mean, all of them had a really rough time. But they went through a lot with their pregnancies and all that. And so they're just a little more shy. And that's how it is with rescued animals. Sometimes, you have to kind of go at their pace. And if they're not ready to be super duper friendly and come right up to you and let you love on them, you have to say, you know what, that's okay. I'm going to be patient, because they have been through some really hard situations, and not every animal responds the same way. There's Lily saying hi to her friend Elliot. So let's go over here and we can say hi to Elliot's sisters. Right here in the front, the closest to me, we have Pearl. Behind her, we have her 2 sisters, Penelope and Susanna. And you can see these guys, they're pretty friendly. Like, they'll come right up to me and they'll say hello, but they're not quite at the level where they really want me to pet them or touch them. And they're also still very wary of strangers. So they kind of know by now that, I'm not going to harm them at all, that I'm just here to bring yummy food and talk to them. But when they meet new people, they can be a little scared and they will often run away. But you can see they're really happy out here in their pasture space. They like to root in the grass and turn it all into dirt and mud, and on the warmer days, they go in the marshy little pond areas and they get all covered in mud. So they're just really living their best life. So then, if we kind of walk around to the other side of the pasture, we can meet our final pig, Sebastian the piglet. So Sebastian is a little bit different than the others. His mom, Penelope, was rescued as part of that neglect rescue that I just talked about. And Sebastian was born here and raised inside. His mom, Penelope, after she gave birth to him, she just completely rejected him. She wouldn't go anywhere near him. She just really wasn't interested in being a mom, which is understandable because she was only 6 months old when she gave birth. So that was really traumatic for her. That's basically the youngest it's possible for a potbelly pig to give birth. They're pregnant for about 3 months. And they can start getting pregnant at about 3 months old. So Sebastian is very different from the other pigs because he was raised by people. So he kind of maybe believes he's a person. He's very friendly, and he has maybe a different experience from them because he hasn't been through the same neglect and negative conditions as the other pigs have been. So he's kind of got a different vibe. So Sebastian and his little friends are in this separate area so that they can get used to the rest of the animals. So because they're all little babies that were raised inside, before we put Sebastian in with his other piggies, we want to make sure that they can kind of get to know each other a little bit through the fence. It's never that great of an idea to throw two animals together when they've never seen each other before. And that's especially true in the case of pigs. Pigs have a really complex social hierarchy system where there's like one pig in charge, and then there's a little bit of a pecking order, quote unquote. So you don't want to just throw in a new pig. They can end up fighting to try to establish their place in the chain of command, I guess. And you don't want to have pigs fighting. They have teeth that can be pretty scary and really traumatic for the pigs. So we're gonna hang out in here with Sebastian, the piglet, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the basics of potbelly pig care. So to start off, what do you feed potbelly pigs? What do you feed these guys? You want to feed them a food that is designed for potbelly pigs. So if you go to Tractor Supply or any sort of farm supply store, they should have a potbelly pig food. You do not want to feed them anything that's marked for like hogs or farm type of pigs, like farm pigs, anything like that, because that food is going to be designed for rapid weight gain. So we are going for the opposite with our potbelly pigs. We are going for like not a lot of weight gain. We want them to maintain a healthy weight. So that's something that you have to watch out for with all pigs, but especially potbelly pigs, is they're prone to being overweight, and that can cause a ton of health issues. So you cannot free feed them. If you buy a bag of potbelly pig food, it will have a guide on it, like how much to feed your pig based on weight. And ideally you want to take that amount and you want to divide it up over a couple feedings throughout the day. So we feed our pigs twice a day. Some people feed them 3 times. It depends on your schedule and your pig. And then we also add fresh produce to their food. We get a produce donation every week from a local grocery store. And the food is like a dry pellet, and we usually add water to that as well. Pigs aren't always great drinkers. I think that's common with a lot of animals, and they don't always drink enough water to keep themselves fully hydrated. So you can help them out by soaking their food in some water to make sure that they're going to get what they need every day. So that's what you feed them. So how do you keep them happy? How do you provide the best habitat for them? So first of all, pigs are escape artists. I would say our pigs escape more than any other animal at our sanctuary. If there's a gate, they will figure out, how to sneak through a crack, how to open it up. They're super smart, and they tend to go for they root under things with their noses. So they're very strong. If your fencing is not really secure, they will find holes. So we use this fencing behind me, which is cattle panels. There's also a version there's another product called a hog panel, which is the same, but a little bit shorter. And these are like a super strong type of fencing. So you can see it's not like a woven fence that might roll up at the bottom. It's like all one big solid piece. And these are 16 feet long. They are not the cheapest type of fencing in the world, but they really get the job done. They keep everybody inside, and they keep everybody out who's supposed to be out. Hi, Lucky. So I'd recommend, you gotta have really good fencing. Just because a fence is good enough to keep a dog in or something else doesn't mean it's gonna be good enough to keep a pig in. They're very smart and very tricky. And then for their housing, it's really important to have something warm for them. They are really vulnerable to predators, especially if they're small. But they don't have claws or teeth. They can't really defend themselves. So even something that you might not always think of as a predator, like a neighborhood dog, can really, really injure a pig. So you want to have them in a secure area, like secure fencing and a secure housing, and you want something that's going to keep them out of the elements. They are they do have fur. You can see he's got some fur, but they get cold. Sebastian loves those warm weather. You'll see him basking in the sun. He's not really a big fan of the cold. So in our pigs' houses, we put a bunch of straw for them to burrow under. And Sebastian actually has blankets and stuff like that in his little house so that he can kind of adjust his own temperature accordingly. So a cutie. So that's something to think about too. You want them to be warm enough in the winter. And then another consideration for their habitat is in the summer, they can get sunburned. So you kind of have like, you know, they have struggles in the heat and they have struggles in the cold, just like we do. So you want to have some water, some mud, some place for them to cool off and kind of protect themselves from the sun, because they can actually use that mud to protect themselves from the sun. So that's something that you definitely want to keep in mind. Potbelly pigs are really social. Like pretty much every animal, they're going to do better in a group than they will alone. But like I mentioned earlier, you have to be like slow and careful with their introductions, because they can fight, and they will fight most scenarios. So unless you're, you know, rescuing a group of pigs that are already together, you want to be very slow with that introduction and watch for signs of stress and tension and just sort of monitor the situation, because pigs can get pretty bad injuries from fighting, and that's definitely not something you want to have. In terms of what type of like vet care is really important for pigs specifically, getting the female pigs spayed and the male pigs neutered. Both are really important. With some animals like goats or sheep, we typically just get the males neutered and don't spay the females or do anything like that. But with pigs, it's really important for every potbelly pig to be spayed and neutered. And the reason for this is that female pigs have a way higher risk of reproductive cancers if they're not spayed. So their lifespan will decrease, or has the potential to decrease pretty dramatically if they're left unspayed. I think it's about a 3 times higher risk for them, and it's pretty significant. So even though it can be costly, especially depending on your area, it can be hard to even find a vet who's willing to spay a potbelly pig. And it's very interesting transporting a large potbelly pig to a vet for a spay surgery. So it can be difficult, but it's really important for their quality of life, for the females to be spayed and the males to be neutered. And of course, you don't want to have litters of accidental piglets, because we've also been through that and it wasn't great. So that's some of the basics that come to mind for me for, what are your like foundational points of care for potbelly pigs. If you have any more questions, I would be happy to answer them. And I hope you liked hearing our pig stories and hearing a little bit about their care. Thanks for watching.